So we're going to start this class purely with identity. If we all could remember who we are at the core, I think we drop this class in 10-15 minutes and we'll call it a day. There's something beautiful about the human brain, and it's how out of the years, due to survival, our brain has adapted a mechanism in which it familiarizes itself with things. And once that happens, we bracket them into categories of normal. So for us to wake up this morning, we've normalized that. You've normalized the body that carries you to this part. You've normalized your breathing. You've normalized your heart beating every day. You've normalized the sun showing up every morning and setting. You've normalized what we call our normal world. In reality, none of it is normal. For you to grab that pen in your hand and put down something on that book, there's a million neurons in terms of communication going on between your body, your mind and your body, communication going on in a matter of literally, I think, nanoseconds or less. All that is happening just for you to carry a pen and write something, or for you to look at me and perceive what I'm saying, or for you to pet that cat. So much is happening within your body, and so much is happening within the universe. For us to have the food we eat today, the sun has to be there so that we can have food. If someone asks you what is the sun, what is the one thing that helps you get food every day? How would you explain it? Because it's a ball that we see in the sky in the morning, and then in the evening it's gone. So there's nothing normal about the universe that we live in. There's nothing normal about your body. There's nothing normal about you existing. And there's nothing normal about you being here in time at this particular timeline. Everything is connected. I love that she said when you could observe your thoughts, that was your mind, that was your subconscious mind. We are all consciousness. I don't know how to break this down in simple terms, but I'm assuming if you're in my class, that is not something strange to you. We are consciousness having a human experience. And this you can prove by, right now, if you close your eyes and told yourself, don't open your eyes, no matter how much you try to open it, if you ask yourself to close your eyes, it will remain closed. And that goes beyond your brain or your thoughts. There is an observer giving instructions to everything that is happening. And that is who you are at the core, your consciousness. So if your consciousness having a human experience, what is that? Because we hear that all the time, but what exactly is that? I believe everyone in this class has their own form of religion. But this class is gonna maybe open your eyes more into spirituality. Because spirituality embraces everything. It embraces religion. It embraces all facets of life. And it's basically coming back into the awareness of who you are as a person. Who you are is not based on what you do, as most of us think, of where you are at in life, or what encompasses the different elements of your life. Who you are comes down to your existence as consciousness in a physical form. Now, this reality is now proven, even with science. Science is now recognizing that while for the longest time, when you look at these bags on the table, we've assumed that this is matter. And science has assumed that the building blocks of everything in our universe has always been atoms. So right now, this is something, if you go down the rabbit hole, you'll find research and answers coming to reality. Right now, we are finding the building blocks of atoms. At the core of atoms is actually space. So the building blocks is basically frequency. So when frequency collapses, that is what you see as matter. So by the time we're seeing the atoms, that is a collapsed form of energy. So if I'm looking at you, if I'm looking at Jackie, if I'm looking at Claire, if I'm looking at Mark, while I'm seeing the physical representation of you, at the core, your energy. So you're simply a collapsed form of energy. This is now proven by quantum physics. It's not some spirituality without a backup. Now, if you are energy at the core, are you more energy or you are more matter? Because if you're energy at the core, it means there's a frequency you are at. And that frequency is dictating everything that you attract towards you. Whether it's ideas, opportunities, or people. I'm going to walk you through a number of subtopics that will help us understand better how we can energetically be more in control of our life. Because the truth is, if your energy cannot be created or destroyed. So there's how you've been unconsciously moving that energy around. The difference is, are you aware of it or not? Are you aware you're in control or not? So we are souls, that's our natural state. The person that is observing, when you went into silence, the person that is observing your thoughts, it's consciousness. So we are souls having a human experience. Now, someone might ask, because I get this question a lot, I also found it interesting. It was one of those things that I really wanted to find out when I began my journey, is what is the essence of it all? Why would I be a soul that is unlimited? Why would I be one with the divine oneness? Why would I be one with the creator? And then I'm here having this physical experience. What's the correlation of it? You know, what is the essence of it? It's a very interesting question. But the truth is, your idea of physical reality is a projection of your consciousness. Now, your consciousness in its natural state cannot evolve or experience certain things because it's oneness. Now, it being projected in the physical reality, in what you are experiencing right now as your life and your lifeline, this enables you to evolve. It enables your soul to experience different dimensions. I'm going to try break down for you this in a number of steps. But I'm hoping, first of all, you can all be clear that we are consciousness. Now, how do you regain your identity? Because if you're pure consciousness, then why are you limited? Because if you're one with the divine oneness, if you're one with the universal field, if you're one with the universe, why are you limited? Whether it's in your execution, whether it's in what you're able to be, whether it's in who you are becoming, whether it's in what you're able to create, why are you limited? You might wonder. Now, if you're going to help you re-identify who exactly you are, because with your identity, nothing is impossible, then you have to break it down into a number of steps. How do you regain your identity? Number one is your self-concept. Now, most of us move through life without being aware that your self-concept is dictating how everything in your life is evolving. Your self-concept psychologically is basically how you relate with yourself and the world around you. That is how you form your self-concept. A lot of us are not aware that our self-concept is something we've built over the years. Since you are a child, it's not something that you have right now. Your self-concept, how you look at yourself and how you look at the world, comes down to a lot of things, from conditioning since childhood to societal conditioning to what you absorb through adulthood. All that forms your self-concept. Now, I'll break down your self-concept into three parts. Number one part of your self-concept would be your ideal self. And then number two would be your self-esteem. And number three would be emotional intelligence. Now, your ideal self is basically the best version of yourself. It's how you envision yourself at your very best. So your ideal self is you at your optimum. I don't know the dreams you have, but it's very interesting how a lot of us are unconsciously even aware that our dreams are attached to a lot of conditioning. Now, I'll just briefly ask around, maybe 2-3 people, what's your ideal self? How do you see yourself at your very best? Asma, what's your dream? How do you see yourself at your very best? What's your ideal self? Faith in yourself. I like that. Geraldine, what's your ideal self?
I'm just thinking like that. My ideal self is being super confident and believing in myself.
Super confident and believe in yourself.
Oh, Anna.
It's okay, we'll sort it out. All right, so your ideal self is basically your best version of yourself. Now, most of us are not even aware that your ideal self has been shaped by your self-concept. So you might have a dream in your mind, and sometimes that dream is limited because the idea of your self-concept is limited. So one area of shaping your identity is looking at your ideal self. What is limiting my very best version? What do I think is impossible that is not enabling me to have this ideal self to the very best capacity it can be? So ideal self is pretty easy to understand. Now, the second area which I love the most is self-esteem. Self-esteem is basically how much you like yourself, whether physically, emotionally, spiritually. How much do you like yourself? You know what's interesting about liking yourself? Is that it's inner work. It doesn't matter how much anyone else can give you. Your inner self, it comes down. We were having this conversation with a friend the other day, and they were asking, why is there so much separation going on? When you look at marriages, there's a lot of divorce cases going on. Yeah, and it was a very interesting conversation. I love listening, so I was listening in as both parties were going back and forth. And the only one answer I could come at is my understanding of self-esteem. Now, I'll let you know how my thought process around it. Often, most of us get into relationships, for example, and you're looking for someone to fill a void. This is happening a lot in our society today. And it's because a lot of people have not done the inner work. A lot of people have not optimized their self-esteem. So you find the separation with self. When I talk about separation with self, this is something that all of us have gone to at some point. Whenever you incorporate other people's ideas, whenever you put other people on a pedestal, whenever you do things that impress others over yourself, whenever you follow a path that is for society other than yourself, anytime there's a separation with self, and separation with self is a matter of putting anything on a pedestal other than yourself, there is going to be a void. So most people go through life trying to fill this void that they've created in the process. Other people can fill it with material things. That is why someone has so much, but they're never contented. Other people fill it with relationships. And now it can't work because the role you're giving your partner is impossible. Nobody can ever fill that void within you as a person. So a big core of self-concept, your ideal self, is building your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is basically reducing the distance you've created with yourself. So going forth, ask yourself, what am I doing that I don't like? Anytime you find yourself, even if you find yourself picking a phone call you're not in the mood for, you're causing a separation with self. Anytime you're involved in any activity, whether physically, emotionally, or mentally, with anything that you don't like, you're causing a separation with self. So you need to always ask yourself in every single endeavor that you intake, what am I doing in this scenario? What am I building on self, or I'm causing separation with self? So this is an area that you have to look at critically. If you can reduce the distance with self, if you can reduce that separation with self, you find it's very easy to build on your self-esteem. Geraldine is talking about confidence and believing in yourself. It's very interesting how this is something that it's almost like a lifetime journey that you go through. Yeah, because it doesn't matter how well you work on it, there's always an improvement you can do in that area of self-confidence. But one thing is for sure, is your self-esteem is based on how much you get to like yourself at the end of the day. And sometimes this is blocked by a lot of things. The other day we were thinking about how much unconsciously you can seek validation without knowing it, or you can hold on shame without knowing it. So inner work to develop your self-esteem basically comes down to you looking at the things that you've given power outside yourself. Whether this is you want approval from other people, you know, whether it's shame standing there in the middle, or it's you limiting yourself. The easier way that people do this to build their self-esteem is by keeping the promises they make to themselves. So it can be as if you say you're going to do something for that day, you do it. So when you build that relationship with yourself, you get to trust yourself more. So you build your self-esteem in the process. The reason why this is important is your subconscious mind, like she mentioned, which runs our life at the core, doesn't know anything outside of yourself. So if you commit to things and let's say you keep derailing on them, you find that your subconscious mind attaches that with your identity. Now you struggle to even build your self-esteem. So your self-esteem is an area you can't ignore. If your self-esteem is in check, you'll find a lot of things tend to flow for you. The third part would be emotional intelligence on your self-concept. This is how well you regulate your emotions and the emotions of those around you. You know, emotions are basically energy in motion. A lot of us get overwhelmed with energy in motion. And it's something that also you master almost over a lifetime. Because it doesn't matter how well you do the inner work. I still get to a point where I have to check myself emotionally. Energy in motion is an area of your life once you master, you can easily regulate your nervous system. If your nervous system is regulated, you live through life with a totally different lens than the average human being. And this is easier to do once you realize that your consciousness having a human experience. So whatever experience you're having in your human journey, please tend to leave a space before you react. It doesn't matter what you come across. You need to recognize that this is just in your path. And it's an experience that either you likely wanted to experience, or if you didn't want it to experience, then you have the chance to transmute it. We're going to talk more on how you can transmute this. Your ability to manage your emotions will create the life you desire. It's so underestimated. And this is because if you're leaving anything else to have the power in your life, anything else that is external of you, you're giving your power away. This is almost, it's almost impossible to master yourself if you can't master your emotions. And then another part is regulating the emotions of those around you. Because the truth is, we're human beings at the end of the day in this physical reality. So if we all have an energetic field that is invincible, you're seeing me seated here, but I have almost a 9-meter energetic field. And it expands with how more energy than matter. And how do I remain more energy than matter? I remain more energy than matter by transmuting any energy around me and within myself that I don't aspire to be in. So if I consistently elevate my emotions, my energetic field around me is more energy than matter. So when you look at this bag right here, this is more matter than it is energy. Now around me, while there's this physical representation of me, there's my energetic field around that you can't see because it's more energy than matter. Yet that is where the magnetic field exists. Your magnetic field is literally dictating anything you're experiencing in your reality. That is why anytime you often find you're reacting in a negative manner, almost everything else, they follow each other in that lens, in a negative manner, because you don't realize that your energetic field just became more matter than it is energy. And this often happens to us unconsciously because you're not even aware that your emotions and your reaction is creating your inner frequency. So the next time someone tries to get on your nerves, the next time you run into news you don't like, I need you to pause for a moment. Just pause for a moment and think, this is me, this is my energetic field. I get to dictate what comes in and what goes out. Once you master this art, you'll realize you'll be blocking a lot of bullshit. So anytime you're going through your day, you dictate, what does my energetic feel like holding? Yeah. And if it's something you don't like, then you release it from your energetic field. I don't know if these guys are not aware, that's a bit interruptive. Okay, so we've as introduction, we've talked about self-concept. 3 things: look at your self-esteem, look at your ideal self, and look at your emotional intelligence. Those 3 things are likely to guide your path in self-concept. Now, going forth, you're going to go up a bit fast so that you are able to cover this in the next 1.5 hours. I feel like someone is asking telepathically, how do you control your inner conversations? How do you change your self-concept? Yeah, I want to address questions before you get there. So how do you change your self-concept? Let's say the self-concept you have, you don't like it. Maybe it's been built through a conditioning in your past that you don't like. How do you change your self-concept? Number 1, you have to stretch your imagination. Your imagination around your ideal self. Aim to stretch it. You see, the beauty about the life we are living as consciousness in a human body, we'll talk more about this as we go, is that your ego thinks you're in control. It's a beautiful perception that we have as human beings. Your ego thinks you're in control, and yes, you are in control. You're creating your life, but you're also creating your life with either knowledge of ignorance of what's happening, and that is the difference. Now, if your consciousness having a human experience, quantum physics says in the present moment, all realities exist, which means there's a version of you that is seated here with me. There's a version of you that is living your dream life. There's a version of you that is 10 years from their past. All of these things are basically happening at the same time. Space and time is an invention of the physical manifestation of us. So your physical experience is what enables time to exist. Otherwise, your mind has the ability to defy timelines. That is why you can sit here with me, but you remembered something that you're doing this morning, or something that happened last night, or you can project into next week. Your mind has the ability to defy timelines. And this is why we are going to learn how to use the mind to jump timelines. Whether you want to move into your ideal life, whether you want to change something that you don't like, whether you want to evolve or ascend, your mind is the tool you're going to use, because in our physical reality, your mind is the one thing that has the ability to defy timelines. Now, how do you enhance your self-concept? It's simple. You change your inner conversation. We all have that inner voice that is always going on in our mind. What is that inner voice saying? Hi. What is your inner voice saying? Are you the one controlling how your day flows? Is your mind focusing on more of what you lack? Is your mind unable to remain still? Does your mind have the ability to go into nothingness? Now, the reason we started our session the way we did is because I believe for you to listen, you have to stop talking. For you to get clarity, you have to stop thinking. Any artist will tell you this, their best ideas never came when they were trying to heavily think. Their best ideas came when they're flowing. To tap into the universal field where everything is born, you have to exit the nature of our physical plane. What is the nature of our physical plane? The one thing I love about this class is that we have people who are a bit open-minded. So a lot of humanity goes through life looking at what's physical. Except there's a lot of things that are not physical, yet you still believe in them. You're not going to climb that tree and jump. You believe in gravity, you're going to fall. Can you see gravity? You can see gravity. If you put on a switch, you believe the light will be there. Can you see electricity? You barely can see electricity, but it moves. I can't see the connection of someone on this other, whoever it is that I'm chatting on this other end, whether they're at the end of the world, but that communication is going through. You know, a lot of us don't question how the world works. How does the world work? How is it that you're able to call someone right now in the US and have a conversation? What is transmuting that information? Technology has told you put some wires at the bottom of the ocean. How can wire transfer your voice to the other side? Yeah? So we are all energetic beings. We all have a magnetic field around us. And every single minute, every single day, you're dictating what comes within that magnetic field. If you can enhance your self-concept, which is number one, you can start changing what you experience within that field. Let's start by how you bend reality. How do you bend reality? Now, we started by acknowledging your consciousness having a human experience. So let's say the human experience you're having is not very fancy. You don't like the experience you're currently having. How do you bend that reality? Now, we are energetic beings, like we've acknowledged. Your energy at the core. So you bend your reality by mastering energy. You understand that you can't create or destroy energy. So you can master energy. How do you master energy? Nikola Tesla once said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of vibration and energy. Now, one thing you have to acknowledge is that your inner reality creates your outer reality. At the core of bending your reality is something we call perception. Your perception, you might be seated here and you're next to someone else. The reality of how they'll exit this masterclass will be totally different from the reality you'll experience. And it all comes down to perception. There's someone who is open-minded and thinking, let me learn something. And there's someone who is a bit still closed off, thinking, I have my physical experience that I'm having. What are you trying to tell me? Yeah? So perception is how you move through life. Perception is how you look at how things happen to you. A lot of us, when we experience life, our day-to-day activities, whenever things go against how we wish them to be, you immediately perceive that things are working against you. The next time you experience anything you don't like, try change the perception around it. You realize what you look at can basically change from how you perceive it. So you can experience, for example, a setback, and you look at it like a setback. What you don't realize is that the perception you have that it's a setback is what is actually creating the reality. So often the perception you have is dictating the outcome of your life. And it's not just a perception around your immediate experiences, it's perception around everything, even mentally how you perceive things. So number one in changing your reality, bending your reality, is looking at your perception. Every time you experience things, ask yourself, what am I perceiving here? Because your perception is actually creating. The second thing you're going to do to bend your reality is transmutation of energy. So the truth is, no state is permanent. Even I have my low moments. The nature of projection in the physical reality is for you to experience life in a way that you can evolve yourself. And that means you're not going to have a life based on a straight path. It means every single step of your journey will challenge you to understand your experience through your life. So transmutation of energy is knowing that you're not always going to be positive. You're not always going to have things flowing your way. But how do you make things start happening for you? So you can transmute energy by a number of avenues. Number one would be mastering inner energy, knowing that you have autonomy over your experiences in life. So I don't know if you're aware, but every single time you are creating your life through your thoughts, your beliefs, and your feelings. Now, let's look at the universe as a restaurant. Everything is connected. All the pieces are always coming together. Now, this restaurant relies on you to give your order for you to be serviced the food that you want. Now, imagine going through life not being aware that you're always putting out the order. So every single time a plate arrives on your table, you want to cause chaos. You're like, I didn't order this. You know those people who are courageous in restaurants? I shy off a bit, but you see those people call, please call me the chef. Yeah, this is not what I ordered. No, the universe is like a restaurant. You are constantly ordering things. So when you don't like what lands on your path, when you don't like what lands on your palms, ask yourself, what did I order? Because you order, hi honey, you order based on your thoughts, your feelings, and your belief systems. All these things form your frequency. And it's because your thought process will dictate how you're feeling. Your feeling will dictate your next action step. So a big chunk of mastering how you bend your reality is by mastering your inner energy. You need to know that you have autonomy over your experience. Now, why is this always so hard? Because someone might ask me, you want me to stay positive when I barely have things going right? How is that reasonable? Yeah? How do you expect me to fix the things that I have pending? And well, that is a very fair question. I get it a lot, and I think it's a very fair question. But I think it also comes partly from ignorance and the human ego. Here is why. When he talked about you guys being consciousness and you're having a human experience, you need to understand that you are part of the divine. There is no separation between you and God. The experience you're having is God having a human experience through you. So whenever you cry out and you're asking God, why am I suffering? God should be asking you, why are you making me suffer? You hear? That is the difference. God should actually be asking you, why are you making me suffer? Because I'm supposed to be having a human experience through you. So how do you tend to be positive when things are not right? Is you have to recognize your identity. You have to know who you are. Because if you're God having a human experience, it means your higher self has every single thing already figured out. Your job is simple. Align your feelings to feel good. Act on your best intention. Do your level best from where you are at. And don't bother about the how. This is where our human ego as human beings catch up with us. We think we are in charge of the how. You don't get to dictate your how. If you're aiming for something in life and you think you're 100% in control of it, I'm sorry to break it down to you, that is just your human ego in the middle. Your higher self has always prepared everything. Everything is evolving out in your favor. You get to collaborate and make it easier by staying on the path of least resistance, by staying on a path that makes you feel good. This is why it brings us back to your self-concept. What are you focusing on that you don't like? What is the separation with yourself? Who are you trying to impress over yourself? Who are you seeking for validation outside yourself? So you might ask, how do I get to remain positive, in all these scenarios? How do I get to alchemize energy? Things are not right. Things are not right because your perception of it is not right. And as long as you're perceiving things in that right, you're continuing to create that perception. Because the freedom we have as humans is that you get to even create your negative experiences. You have the freedom to do that. So no one will come and ask you, why did you order that negative package? No one will ask you that. They'll just deliver. Because in your human experience, any path is allowed. So which path are you taking? So mastering your inner energy is knowing that you have autonomy over your experiences. You choose to see the perception, you choose to perceive them from the lens you want to, and you choose to have the feeling that works for you best. So mastering your inner energy is basically mastering your thoughts, mastering your feelings, and mastering your belief system. Those three. Now, how do you shift to an alternate reality? We're going to quantum jump in a few minutes. I love this part. How do you shift an alternate reality? I like giving the example of a friend of mine. This year in February, they were diagnosed with cancer. It's a complicated name. It's cancer of something in the brain. So there was something growing, nudging towards their brain. And this is someone who was normal, working every day as usual. And then one day they have this series of headaches for the next 2 weeks. They go for tests and the results come back positive, cancerous cells. And I remember them telling me this, and they're almost detached from their reality. They're like, by the way, I was diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, hold up. So they break it down for me, and we sit there in silence because you don't know what to tell someone in that situation, because stage 1, stage 2 is fine. But when you're diagnosed with stage 3, stage 4 cancer, that's a whole different ballgame. So this is the reality they are in. They are in a reality whereby they have cancer. And I remember them looking at me and telling me, you know, I've followed your teachings for years, for some time. How do I shift into an alternate reality? Let me tell you, it's easy for me to sit down here with you people who are healthy, yeah, and try to break down for you how you shift to an alternate reality around wealth or around abundance. It's a total different ballgame to sit with someone who is facing death and facing a very complex reality and wanting that to be something that is not in their reality. Now, I don't want to brag and say I had a part in their healing, because this was in February. The diagnosis was in February. We're in August. Exactly 2 weeks ago, they came back from India. They're cancer-free. Yeah? So they're supposed to do another series of tests in 3 months to just see how it is. But the results they got is it's literally not there anymore. So how did they jump this? Now, if we are energetic beings, I need you to understand that not only do you have control over your abundance in life in terms of wealth, but you also have control over your health. You get to dictate your reality to that element. So here's what we did, and I'm going to use a practical example of what we did. The number one step of jumping into an alternate reality is acceptance. So one thing you're going to do is you're going to accept where you are fully. You're not going to try fight it. You're not going to try wish you are somewhere else. You're just going to fully accept the reality you're experiencing. Now, you have to make peace with where you are. So this is how you jump reality, whether it's financially or health-wise. The second thing you're going to do, you can do this in silence when you're alone, but it's something you get to master over time. You're going to use the one tool that is God-given to you that can defy timelines. We said that earlier. What was it? I want to see what people are attentive in time. What was the tool that defies timelines? Your mind. So you have the one tool that defies timeline, that can defy dimensions. You're going to use that tool for your benefit. So number one, you're going to use your mind to shift into a reality that you want. How do you do this? You have to be very crystal clear about what you want. So whether this, my friend wanted just good health, they wanted to get back to an age whereby they can go back to running their own company, organization, you know, they can be on their feet and do their things and see their children grow. So you're going to have a very clear picture in your mind of your alternate reality. And here's the secret. You're going to pick the details that most people don't pick. So whether it's you in your ideal home, whether it's you at your perfect health, you're going to pick the details, how you feel in that moment. You're going to pick the smell around you. You're going to observe the sounds around you in that moment. Doesn't matter what you're doing in that scenario. You're going to pick the small details that people would leave out in your alternate reality. And the reason for this is that you're creating a bridge between your alternate reality and your current reality. Now, someone might ask, what next? If you're energetic beings, one thing you need to understand that energy is always attracting or repelling things. You're always attracting or repelling things, whether you're aware of it or not. So once you accept your current reality, you have envisioned, you visualized your ideal reality to the core. You felt the emotions associated with it, whether it's good health, whether it's abundance, whether it's wealth. You've envisioned yourself in your ideal home. You're going to have to release, because energy has to flow. You release by allowing, and you allow by trusting. I'll expound more into this as we go into abundance teachings. You know how they tell you you're not years away from your desires, your vibrations away. Yeah? when you want to get into your alternate reality, you have to drop your human timelines. So the reason why a lot of you think I can achieve that in 5 years, I can achieve that in 10 years, is because you're associating every dimension with time. I need to understand that time only exists in this physical reality that we live in. So even how fast you call in whatever you want is based on your perception around it. If you perceive that it will take time, it will take time. If you are aware that you get to dictate how fast it comes in, that is exactly what happens. So mastering energy is basically understanding how alchemy works. Now, alchemy, which was the title of our class today, is basically, technically, it's how you turn lead into gold. That is a technical aspect of alchemy. But alchemy origin, if you're a big reader of history, realize that alchemy origin is in Egypt. It's actually Africa. And it was practiced in cahoot with the spiritual essence, which basically meant, how do you alchemize energy? How do you transmute energy to your favor? How do you bend your reality if you don't like your reality at the moment? And alchemy is basically the portal that you are given to change your life. And this portal often occurs in the heat of moments. Anytime you feel there's a reaction within you, try and pause. That is a portal for you to transmute energy. So if you are going through an experience in life that you don't like, think of it as a chance. Consciousness is giving you a chance to break through. It's giving you a chance to create and alchemize that situation. And you do it by basically changing your core vibration, which is changing your thought and your feelings around that matter. It's not easy to do this if you don't recognize your identity. But once you know your consciousness having a human experience, then you know that everything is always working out in your favor. Then it's easy for you to transmute that energy. So mastering energy is basically just mastering your inner conversation. What is going on in that mind? Okay. So there's something that I love, because we can sit here all day and talk about these things. But the truth is, your life doesn't change based on what you do. Your life changes based on who you become. So let's talk about becoming in terms of alchemizing your situation. You have to become first to attract what you want. What is that? A lot of us start opposite. So today you think, I need to start making more money. So what can I do? Let me try apply for ABC. And all those things are important. I need to understand that if you can master yourself, it's easy for you to master your outcomes. So who are you becoming internally? Who are you at the core? Are you someone who is in touch with their true identity? And your true identity is your God having a human experience. So how are you moving through life? Are you moving through life as a victim? What is the avatar you've built of yourself? You have to build your human avatar. If you can build your human avatar, you'll easily attract anything into your experience. Your human avatar is based on who you are internally. So if you change who you are internally, you change your circumstances. Are you a more confident person? Are you someone who believes more in themselves? Are you someone who sees the God in them? Are you someone who is aware that their perception is limiting them? Are you someone who can stretch their imagination? Are you someone who takes lead even if things are in chaos? If you can change who you are at the core, you don't have to do anything. Automatically, those things will start showing up in your life. But you have to look at alchemizing as a form of changing who you are to become that which you want. You have to change who you are at the core, or at least enhance who you are at the core. Becoming is more of going back to the creator source. It's going back to God, becoming one with God. Because ultimately you are God having a human experience. So it is not just basically praying the way we do it. It is the knowing. That is a secret source. If you can know deep at your core who exactly you are, then it's easy for you to become that which you want. Knowing, how do you know who you are? Because we live in a world that constantly tries to make you forget who you are. You have to look at your belief systems. Now, how do you quantum jump in terms of who you are? This is always very practical when it comes to you as a person. And it's easy to master it by practice. Now, one thing about life is you realize repetition and practice tends to hone skill sets. When you get to the business part, we'll talk about the 10,000 hours of input that are required for you to get to the GOAT level. If you're going to be in this physical reality, you need to understand that there are some universal laws that also guide this physical reality. So, part of becoming is you physically showing up as who you desire to become. You know, a lot of us during the day, you live through life with the avatar you currently see yourself in. But the avatar I see myself, my ideal self in, is probably someone that changes the world at a global level. So every single day, how do I show up as that person? What are the decisions I make as that person? You know, what are the feelings I have as that person? What are the pathways I'm taking as that person? You don't have to know how you'll be that person. That is the difference. You don't have to know how. You just have to know. That's it. Know you are that person in a different timeline. Know it's easy for you to be that person. You don't have to know how you're going to be that person. So this is where basically it's you aligning your thoughts, your action, your feeling, your beliefs to match up to that avatar in your alternate reality. So I wouldn't lie and say this is something you master overnight, but it's something once you do it, you'll get good at it over time. And there's nothing as beautiful as the freedom eventually it gives you at the end of the journey. Because you're going to live through life free from a lot of the things that hold us humans into a cage. So you're going to move through life with a more restful soul. You're going to move through life a bit calmly. You're going to move through life that you can be in the middle of chaos. And you'll be the one person in that room that is stabilizing the energy of that room. You can be one person who can alchemize the energy in this entire town. It is possible. And it's because you are rooted in your identity. You get to choose what happens to you. This is something if you experience at a personal level and over time you practice it, you'll get to find how magical life is. Because you move through life. Yesterday there was an incident that I found very interesting. It was raining in a big chunk of Nairobi. And the day before that, I remember looking at the skies and it was so heavy. And thinking, please don't rain. You know, because my help had decided to do thorough cleaning for that day, and I love sun drying my things. I'm sort of in touch with energy. So literally every single thing in my house was outside. And the clouds were heavy. And I remember looking at the sky and saying, don't rain. It can hold on another day. And someone might think that is something impossible to do, but it didn't rain until the next day. You know, and it rained the minute she took everything else back in the house. That is when it started pouring. As human beings, you have immense power. You are not aware of it. And it's purely based on the lack of knowing that you are the universe having a human experience. So you get to dictate in your reality what happens. In your reality, is it raining? No. In your reality, is there abundance? Yes. In your reality, what is happening? You get to dictate that. But here's the difference. You can't dictate that without knowing. So this is why the new era spiritualism that is trying to ramp down manifestation and visualization, while it's helping in a way, it's not giving the true picture. Because you can stand in front of the mirror and every single day you say, I am a billionaire, I am a billionaire. If you doubt it deep down, you're doing zero work. The magic of creating your reality, of bending your reality, is knowing the essence of what makes you. Is knowing that you are God having a human experience, is knowing your identity. And the more you practice going in touch with your identity and you see things happening, the more you reinforce that knowing. So you'll get to a point whereby the world could literally be ending, but you are so calm because you know in your identity, you get to create how things evolve for you. So the difference with making your reality come to pass, the alternate reality you want, is getting back to the knowing, guys. You have to know. It is not just a superficial belief. It is knowing your true essence. And here's the thing. All of you at some point in life, you've experienced that true essence. You've experienced it at some point. Either you've experienced it through your peak joy, or your peak grief and you don't know how you overcame it, or a situation that you can't explain how you got over it. But every one of us has experienced their God elements, whereby you can't explain how things evolved to work out for you, but they eventually did. Now imagine if you mastered how to consistently have this as your reality, whereby everything in your reality is reinforcing this knowing. You'll get to a God mode that nothing is impossible in your life. But it's something you reinforce step by step. Don't try to do it overnight. So try creating something small. And once you realize, oops, I can actually create this, move into the next thing. And you create this by, we said, purely frequency. Your frequency is dictated by your thoughts and your feelings. The more elevated your feeling is, the stronger your magnetic field. The stronger your magnetic field, the easier you attract things to you. Whether it's ideas, whether it's people, whether it's opportunities, it's basically based on what you're attracting to yourself. Now, this is the beauty about life, and I love that you're asking that question, is that you get to give the permission, whether they get to experience you in that reality. And how you give permission is not by word. You give permission by your vibration. So if the alternate reality is at par with your vibration, then they can easily attract you into it. But if you're vibrating higher than they are, it will be impossible for you to come into their reality. Or if you're vibrating lower than they are, it's impossible for you to come into their reality. But one thing you need to understand is that the universe is constantly playing this game of chess with all of us. And it's seeing how to put this game into a way that it makes sense to all of you. So if I need help, and I'm actively bending my reality by managing my thoughts and my feelings and all that, you'll find someone else who's doing the same can be brought into my reality to merge a reality for both of us. But you can't come into someone's reality unless they match your vibration. And that is why you find a lot of toxic people will attract toxicity, for example, because the vibration at which you are in is allowing nonsense. So your magnetic field can allow anyone into it. So how you protect yourself as an individual is ensuring that your frequency, you get to dictate the frequency of your reality. Now, bending reality, Dennis, thank you for that question. Bending reality and moving to an alternate reality is always a choice you're making, whether you're aware of it or not. So you'd rather even be more intentional around it. Because what happens is, as as your journey evolves, you'll get to realize there's something we call simulation of life. I'm hoping I can have my notes in my head. Let's just go on. So we have something called life simulation, which was the next step we are going into. The men who are here will tell you that as they play video games, in any video game, there are characters. There's a character in the game that is the player that is being moved around. There's somebody behind with a console that is moving this character. So the character in the game thinks they have autonomy on where they're going to. And yes, they do. But there's someone in the game that is moving this player. Now, this is level 2. Level 2 is the person who is playing the game. Now, level 3 is the programmer of the game. There's someone who made that game, who dictated, once you hit level 1, we can go to level 2. Once you hit level 2, we can go to level 3. There is the creator of the reality. So you can choose to move life. Whenever you hear people saying, we live in a matrix, we live in a simulation, it is not something pre-planned, no. It is just how creation has evolved to get us to this point. Now you get to decide in this simulation, are you going to be the character that is being moved around with every person that comes? Are you going to be the player that is moving around this character? Or are you going to be the programmer that gets to dictate how this game plays? Now the OG level is being the programmer level. A lot of us are moving through life like the character in the game. You're being shifted left, right, and center by your circumstances, by your conditioning, by societal programming, by your experiences. So every single thing you're coming through as your day is evolving, you're letting it have power over you. When you are the creator of your life, you understand that life is a simulation. You're basically energy, consciousness having a human experience. So you get to dictate how the game goes. You get to dictate the standards in that game. And here's the thing, there is no wrong standard. That is the beauty about this. And there is no wrong path. You just need to find out what path works for you and what path don't you prefer. And then you change path. So simulation is understanding that we live almost like in a matrix system. You choose whether you want to be part of this matrix or you want to dictate your life for yourself. So the next time, ask yourself, am I programming my life? And you program your life by being intentional about it. Now, how do you do this? Let's move into the essence of attention and awareness. If today you woke up and you decided, I'm going to spot a red car because you like red cars. Suddenly, throughout your day, you'll see all shades of red. Same thing happens whenever you point out something you like. As you're moving across your day, these are things you don't recognize every day. But the minute you pointed it out, suddenly you're seeing it in almost every lens. Every place you go, you're seeing an element of what you like. Same thing happens to the simulation in life. Whatever you focus more of your attention on, you create more of. There's no two way around it. So you need to ask yourself, in this simulation, what am I creating more of? What am I giving more attention to? So if you're paying more attention to things you don't like, you create more of that. You need to live in a physical reality whereby everything that you don't like doesn't exist. Even if it's showing up in your face, you act like, okay, I saw you, but you don't exist in the rest of my day. Attention and awareness is how you program the simulation of life. What are you paying attention to? Are you paying attention to the possibility? Are you paying attention to what you want? Where is your energy moving towards? Where is your energy motion, your motions leaning towards? Anytime you're giving attention to anything that you don't want in your reality, I need to understand that you're creating more of it unconsciously. So you have to ask yourself, what do I want? Now, if we are energetic beings having a human experience, how have we forgotten this? Because a lot of us struggle with this reality. Even us would know. Ultimately, you always arrive at a bump where you're almost like in doubt of that. As an African child, I need you to understand that you have the advantage of coming back and being one with the divine, and being one with the universal consciousness, and being one with the collective consciousness. And you can do this through a series of things, basic things that we're all given, which you'll allow me to go into a bit. So right now we are under the sun. A lot of us have forgotten that every black person, this is my research, I don't know about white people, but I'm hoping everyone here is black. Every black person has the same genetic coding with the sun. The sun is literally good for all your biological functions. And the sun helps you open what you call the pineal gland, what they call the third eye. So one avenue of coming back into your identity is learn to spend more time in the sun. And not just in the sun, in natural elements, whether this is being around water, whether it's being around nature, whether it's sunbasking, whether it's grounding. Anytime you ground, you connect with earth. Your connection with elements that are beyond us will help you come back into the understanding of who you are. The sun, once your third eye opens, I don't know at what point it opens, but once your third eye opens, you won't struggle with knowing your identity as who you are. You'll recognize that you are the most important part of creation, you as a person. And then once you move from the outside lens of a person, now you realize the collective consciousness. Whenever you see people starting to be kind when they were not kind before, often it's sometimes their third eye opening. Because now you realize whatever I do to Claire, whatever I do to Amboy, whatever I do to Maria, at a collective level, I'm doing it to myself because there is no separation. If we're all consciousness having a human experience, it means the level of separation comes down to the physical representation of you. So you are different from me in this physical representation. But in the spiritual representation, there is no separation. And your subconscious mind knows this. This is why whenever you're thinking negative thoughts or you're talking about something negative about someone else, your subconscious does not know that it's not you. So your subconscious mind is moving with the knowing that you're talking about these things about yourself. So even the thoughts that were never running in your mind, you have to get to a level of being in control of your thoughts. Right now, if I asked you guys, can you empty your mind? Who can do it comfortably? By a show of hands. I love that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can tell from the ones who've raised their hands that they've been practicing a bit of inner work. And you do this by learning how to go back to the divine oneness. We said as you are starting, you can't think clearly if there's no clarity, if there's noise. So when I said if you can empty your mind, and only 4 people lifted up their hands, it shows there's a lot of work that we need to do as a team, because in this group we move as a team. Now, how do you learn to empty your mind? I need you guys to understand one thing, is that the thoughts that come in your mind are not your thoughts. Once you understand this, you'll get a bit more clarity on how maybe life works. The thoughts that come in your mind are not your thoughts. Same to the ideas that come in your mind. As a matter of fact, you are a vessel. You're a universal vessel. So the thoughts that are coming in your mind are part of the collective consciousness. Sometimes you might even think you're being depressed. That depression, those thoughts are not yours. We are connected, just physically we are separate. So the thoughts that are coming in your mind come from the collective consciousness. Now you have to ask yourself, you as a vessel, what are you choosing to hold on to? Because you can choose the thoughts that you hold on to. You are a vessel. And this is why a lot of us think that whenever you get a brilliant idea, you think it's your idea. And then you get comfortable around it. you don't execute it, and then a few months, a few years down the line, you see someone doing exactly what you had thought of, and you're like, I thought of that idea. It is because you forget that you don't own the ideas, you don't own the thoughts. You are a vessel. The universe chooses you as a vessel for these ideas and thoughts. And you need to realize that you can only perceive ideas because you have the ability to actualize them. So the minute you receive, for example, very good ideas, the universe has chosen you as a vessel for those ideas. If you don't execute those ideas, I promise you, they are going to be channeled through someone else. That is the beauty about universal intelligence. So the universe will give you time. Yeah, you've asked for something, we've given you an answer through an idea. Are you acting on the idea? And here's the beauty of things is that even the action on the idea, you just have to show the willingness to do it. But every path will be shown as you progress along. Every path of you executing that idea will show itself. But you have to, first of all, embrace the gift you've been given and say, I've accepted it, so let me now execute it. Now I need your help in executing it. But before you accept it, you can't execute it. And if you don't execute it, it will be channeled into someone else. So the same thing is with your thoughts. You don't own those thoughts. So a lot of us cling onto thoughts that are killing you internally. You know, you have negative thoughts spiraling on in your mind and you're clinging onto them and they're drowning you and you don't realize these are not your thoughts. These were thoughts that were on an errand. They were passing. Yeah? And you decided to hold on to thoughts that were passing. And now you're creating a reality based on thoughts that are not even yours. So how do you get to a point where you control your thoughts? One thing you need to learn is how to empty your mind. You need to learn how to go back into nothingness. A lot of us think our thoughts are us. So you associate yourself with your thoughts. You associate yourself with your identity in this physical reality. What you're doing is you're creating more of what you don't want. So number one, you need to figure out, how do I empty my thoughts? How do I get to a point where if I choose to sit in silence, I can hear that voice, I can hear the voices around me, and I can choose to get to a point where no thought is coming in this mind. It takes years before you practice this. I think personally it took me a number of years. But even if you can start by getting at a point where for a minute is so long actually. Just try 15 seconds without a thought in your mind. I'm going to challenge you maybe for 2 minutes right now, immediately. I want us to close your mind. Silence, the secret is in silencing your mind and then moving into your body. So I want you to try close your eyes. We're going to practice it physically because this is where you start from. Yeah? So just close your eyes. Now you'll probably hear my voice as part of the thoughts coming in. You also have your internal thoughts. Don't fight them, don't resist the urge. Just feel the thoughts as they come in. Now try move into your body, leave your mind, move into your body. Put your attention on any part of your body, whether it's your legs, whether it's your heart, whether it's your stomach, and just stay present in any part of your body. Feel the sensations around that body. Now, one thing you'll realize, you can open your eyes. One thing you'll realize is even as you pay attention in any part of your body, your thought is already developing thoughts around that. You have to practice the habit of going into silence and trying to empty your mind. Empty your mind of everything. Now, why is this practice so important? Your ability to empty your mind allows it the space for you to program that which you want. That is the whole secret. It's going to be hard for you to program your mind when it's already absorbed with your previous thoughts. So the habit of going into silence and emptying your mind. This can look like sitting in silence every single day, maybe 15 minutes maximum. Just sit in 15 minutes. Please leave your phone, leave your gadgets, don't stream Netflix, don't do anything, don't talk to anybody, sit in silence for 15 minutes without doing anything. If you can do that consistently for 2 weeks, you'll start seeing the results I'm talking about. You'll get to a point where you can sit and you can decide, I don't want to think of anything. And you can block those thoughts. Now that is how you rewire your mindset. If you can get to a point of emptying your mind and having nothing there, nothingness, I need to understand that we all come from that nothingness. That nothingness is the essence of God. I am who I am. That nothingness without attachment to your achievements. That nothingness without attachment to your emotions. You know, that nothingness without attachment to your progression in life. The ability for you to stay in the present moment. The only real thing, according to quantum physics, the only real thing is currently your present moment. So how fully are you always in the present moment? If you're seated here with us, how fully are you here? If you're working, how fully are you in the skill set that you're doing? Your ability to come back to the present moment will enable you create. Someone has the book of the power of now seated there. It's yours. It's a very beautiful book. That whole book is about the present moment. That's why it's called the power of now. Now, if you can master the power of now, you can master life. Because what usually happens is we live a lot either in our past or in our future. But here's the thing, what you're going to do, and especially after you leave this class, I'm hoping you're going to be masters of alchemy. The thing is, once you practice what we talked about, getting into your alternate reality, once you move there through thought, through feeling, once you experience the life you want to create, the secret source lies in you being able now to live in the present moment. Because the present moment holds all possibilities. And you elevate your feeling in the present moment by focusing on more on what makes you happy. So there are no magic, there are no magic workings around this. Basically, you alchemize your life through your ability to love your life. You have to love every experience of it. You have to change the perception of how you look at life. That is the underlying hack of it all. You have to love even the experiences you don't like. Because what you know is that you're creating the experience you like. You're in the process of creating the experience you like. So whatever it is that you don't like right now doesn't matter. If you can move through life with that love for life, love for your experience, love for yourself, love for people around you, love for nature, love for everything, if you can fill your core essence with love, love transmutes everything else in your experience. I promise you, if you're looking for even wealth and you haven't mastered love, I promise you it won't make sense. You'll get there. It still won't make sense. There'll still be a void. I run a marketing agency. We were based here in Karen, along Karen Road. A small team of about 21 people. Now, we've worked with corporations all over the world. We've also gotten to work with a number of people who've done well, not for themselves, but for humanity as a whole. And I tend to pry a lot whenever I'm around people that I look up to. And most of my clients are people that I look up to. And I can go for years without even seeing any of my clients. That is just the nature of how we work. So any chance I get with them, because we are always very busy people on both ends. Any chance I get with them, I tend to ask the questions that matter out of life. And often you'll find people who've done very well for themselves successfully when it comes to materialistic lens. And the answers will always bring you to one thing. If you don't feel the void that you feel right now, even the version of you that has everything can't fill that void. So when you want to quantum jump into your alternate reality, please make sure, this is an advice that I give, and it's because it's something very close to my heart. Please make sure your alternate reality is made of the person that has filled the void within themselves. And the void within yourself is basically filled by reducing the separation with self. The separation with self only exists whenever you're following anything outside yourself. So ask yourself, what makes you happy? What fulfills you? You know? What makes your heart tick with joy? Often you don't even realize that the things you want are not even attached with yourself. They're probably attached to outside validation. So the separation with self comes when you do things that are not for yourself. So the most abundant form that you can ever be is the version of you that is fully fulfilled and is fully contented. And sometimes that is the easiest way to quantum jump. So the next time you're trying to move into your alternate reality, you're always quantum jumping whether you're aware of it or not. Your mind is always quantum jumping. You have to choose the alternate reality that is fully fulfilled and contented. And whether that looks like financial freedom, whether that looks like emotional freedom, you know, whether that looks like physical freedom, you have to choose that for yourself. No one should ever dictate that for you. So try and fulfill yourself first before you fulfill the world. And you can do that without having everything that you're looking for in life. And that is the secret. It's almost like life is this game. It's a very silly game, come to think of it. It's not funny. You know when you read how life works and you go and try and experience it over time, you realize it's like this silly game that takes a lot of people through a lot of frustration when it's supposed to be very simple. Because your ideal life that you dream of, your ideal self that has everything that you want, ultimately is your happiest version. Now, you might ask yourself, why do you need to have that before you are happy? And then someone will tell you, you actually need to be happy to have that. So today, as you go back to your different corners, ask yourself, what am I doing to make me happy? What am I doing to make me happy? That is the only avenue you get to live the ideal life you want. What are you doing to make you happy? It's you at the center of it. If you can do and lean towards more of things that make you happy, then you've literally hacked the simulation of life. Because eventually your feelings dictate your reality and the outcomes of your life. So if you're moving through life channeling happiness, I need you guys to understand that you will be channeling other dimensions unaware. You will be channeling all the timelines in your reality that you exist as a happy version without you being aware of it. So someone might ask, I didn't ask. A friend of mine told me this the other day, and I didn't know how to respond immediately because they were really in a situation of pain, and I didn't want to be the person that is a douchebag and doubles down on that. So one thing they asked is, I didn't ask for me to have a miscarriage. They miscarried their child. I didn't ask for this to happen. And the truth is, it's probably not something they wanted. But when you understand how the universe works, you get to realize that was a spirit form wanting to have a human experience and that chosen you as a vessel. So when the spirit chooses not to live up to its long term, then it's a choice that is attached to you. You might not have made it, but it's attached for your well-being. So in the moment, you might be limited to think, this is not working for me. This has really broken my heart. And it's because as a human being, we are limited. We are limited to the physical view of our reality. But your higher self that is still connected with the collective consciousness, understands why that had to happen the way it happened. You might not explain it immediately, but it will take you years probably for you to arrive at an understanding and know exactly why that happened the way it was. So a lot of things that we encounter don't look very pleasing to us, especially in the moment. If you move through life with the knowing that you are God having a human experience, then you know that God doesn't lose. You know? Another limitation we have as human beings is, even in that element that you're talking with her, is looking at death as an end. You look at death and you think that spirit doesn't exist no more. But death is a portal. And death is a portal that I personally had an experience with, I think about 2 years ago. I don't talk much about it because the things you experience at a spiritual level becomes very hard to explain to someone who is not spiritually at par with who you are. So, about 2 years ago, not 2 years ago, actually it's a year, just a year ago, a year and some months ago, my grandma died. So I was probably her closest grandchild. We do all the plannings and all that. We end up burying her. And then I think a month later, I passed by her grave to take the flowers. Now, I don't know if this will make sense to you, but when I put the flowers on her grave, I decided, let me have lunch. So I had some fruits in the car, and I had some lunch I'd picked from Carrefour. So I decided, let me go pick that lunch and eat it with my grandma next to her. So I bring for her a banana, and as a joke, I put the banana next to the flowers, and I'm like, these are yellow like the flowers, please have some so that you don't think I'm greedy as I'm eating here with you. So I'm seated by the grave, and suddenly I feel like we are starting to have a conversation. And it's not something you can explain to a normal person. But I asked her, why the timing? Because she died with my mom, I was not there, and I wanted her to at least wait for me. So I asked her, why did you leave without saying bye? And she says, I never left, you're talking to me. And we end up having this heartful conversation. And she ends up telling me something about the family that I didn't know. You know? And this is something I've never told anybody else except my mother. Because how would you tell someone that you had a conversation with someone who was transitioned? But my proof was here. So she ends up telling me something about the family. And I ask her, really? She says, tell your mother, ask your mother, she will not tell you. I believe you're now of age. Now, you know, you might think these things don't happen until you have a personal experience with it. So ultimately, I didn't even ask my mother immediately, but another month down the line, we're having a conversation now with my mother. We are two of us in the kitchen. I'd gone to visit her. And I asked her, did you know this? I've not told her the conversation I had with her mother. So I asked her, did you know this? And she turns immediately. And she said, who told you that? And I say, your mother did. Shosho told you that? And I go, yeah, she did. And she goes on to try and understand at what point did my grandma tell me this. So I tell her, I had a conversation the last time I went to her grave. She told me this. This blew my mother's mind. Because my mother might be a religious person, but she's also just starting to learn about the spiritual essence of life. It literally blew her mind, and she was asking me, no. She told you this before she died. I'm like, how would I know? No, she told me this the other day. Now, it didn't end there. A month later, so that you understand how the synchronicity works with the universe. A month later, my mother now takes the flowers to her mother's grave because this shocked her to the core. Because she realized she was mourning her mother still. And I think in me telling I talked to her mother, it almost opened her eyes to knowing death is a transition. It's not like she's gone. So a month later she goes, actually it's not a month, I think she went like 2 weeks after that. She goes to take flowers to her mother's grave herself. Now, this was the most interesting bit. Now she takes the flowers, as she's there with her mom. A stranger is passing by and gets into the compound and says, I think I saw your daughter here a month ago, now referring to me. She says, yeah, my daughter was here. She had brought her flowers to her grandmother. And the woman says, can I talk to you? And she says, yes, of course. So the woman gets in. And the woman is telling her, when your daughter was here, did she tell you something? And my mother acts dumb. And she's like, no, she didn't tell me anything. Why? And she says, I happen to see beyond the physical eyes of humanity. And I've always been able to communicate with people on the other side. And when I was passing here, it was divine timing that your daughter was also here, because I saw her conversing with your mother. Now, this was so shocking to my mother. These are not stories I'm creating. These are things that happened. This was so shocking to my mother because after I told her that, I don't think she fully believed me. And the universe was trying to teach her, tell her the truth of what exactly happened. Because to me, she might think I'm creating things up. You know, the person that birthed you sees you at a given lens. So it doesn't matter what you tell them, it looks like you're crazy. So when this woman told her, and the fact that this woman was passing at the exact time she was there, when this woman passed when I was there. So this woman telling her that your daughter was here and she was talking to your mother. And I don't know if you also have the same ability. Clearly she was not talking to her mother, right? So the woman was telling her she was here, she was talking to your mother, and they had a very heartfelt conversation. I didn't want to interrupt it. Yeah, but I felt I should let you know that your mother seems to be fine. So my mom calls me immediately after that. She was like, I thought you were crazy. You know, you are actually serious. I'm like, yeah. And I think since then she's gone into the rabbit hole of trying to understand how life works in essence. But I'm giving that story to make you understand that how you view life is limited. So your belief and how you move through life is limited. And it's limited from human conditioning. It's limited through your experiences. It's limited through the lens on how you relate with the world. You first of all need to understand that that limitation is holding you back from your true potential. That limitation is holding you back from the reality of how life works. So ask yourself today, what am I doing to break through this limitation? Am I creating the life I want? And if that is so, what am I doing? Why is a big chunk of my attention and awareness going to? And how often am I going to the reality of that I want? So make it a habit to go into that alternate reality that you prefer as often as you possibly can, and feel it in depth and watch it become your life. It is possible, but it has to come from a point of knowing that currently in your physical reality, you are limited. It means even the ability of things on how you can do them, they are limited. Once you know that you have help, your higher self, the universe is always working in your favor, then it's easy for you to alchemize situations into your favor, because once your perception changes, your imagination stretches. Once your imagination stretches, your ability to curate the life you want, to bend your reality, to alchemize, expands. But this is only possible by acknowledging that you're limited in your knowing and understanding on the dynamics of life. My journey has taken me to meet people who in life, people who live very minimalistic life. Even that lady who approached my mother, I had to ask my mother, please, look for her and get her number. Because she might be in the village living a very simple life, but look at the gift that woman has. That woman has the gift of communicating with people who are not in this dimension. When that day I thought it was me communicating to my grandma, there was someone else who was actually seeing her apart from me. And that blows my mind. It tells you how much gifts we have as humanity, and you're not even putting them into use. So look at life as a simulation and figure out, how do I curate the life I want through my belief systems, but majorly anchored on the knowing on the knowing that it comes down to you creating that reality. Now, one avenue that we have to discuss before I let you guys go and eat something for a break here is that everything exists in 3 lanes. If I had a board, I'd draw it down for you. So we have the spiritual lens. Yeah. We have the physical lens. So we have the spiritual lens, we have the physical lens. And then you have the mental plane. These 3 things don't exist outside of each other. If you can learn to merge these 3 things, how do you merge these 3 things? Number 1 is, today you might ask God, I want to make a minimum of about 10,000 USD every month. 10,000 USD every single month. That should be maybe a minimum of what you want to make every month. And the universe will look at you and say, eh, aki na hiyo kazi unafanya hiyo pesa hapana. Hapo hapana. So what the universe will do, because the universe can't work with what you're currently doing, so the universe will decide to bless you in the mental plane. Remember, so now we've stepped down from the spiritual, now we are in the mental plane. Now the universe will come to the mental plane and will use you as a vessel for an idea. It will bring a brilliant idea. We can actually do this. Now, here is where a lot of us fail at it. For it to exist in your physical reality, you have to lean on actions in that lens. Are you maintaining that elevated emotion within your magnetic field? What is the motion of your energy? How are you feeling most of the time? You have a signature frequency that dictates the things you hold on to. It's very critical for you to understand that. So, your only role is to stay in charge of that magnetic field. Just sustain an elevated emotion. And this is only possible if you get rid of all the noise in your mind, if you get rid of all the doubts in your mind. Learn to silence your thought process. Learn to empty your mind every once in a while. Allow yourself to rewire your mindset. Know everything is possible and everything is happening for you. The beauty about the life you're experiencing on this realm is that you get to choose the experience you want. Even if it's negative, it's an experience. I need to understand that at the core of who you are God. So there's nothing you've not experienced. There's nothing you've not had. There's nothing you don't have access to. As a soul, you don't get to have the experience you have in the physical reality, which means the physical reality is the only vehicle that enables you to have experiences, whether negative, positive. It enables you to have the ups and downs, the aspects of you that expand. They're only possible in this reality. So you have to ask yourself, what are you creating based on that? I'm going to allow a series of questions before we break, just a few questions that I can answer directly. Before we break, briefly you bite something, alafu we come back. I don't know if there's any questions to go around. Yes?
That place where you are operating at a higher being,
Yeah.
does it come through your DNA naturally, or are there people who are naturally gifted based on, let's say, their lineage or something in their blood, or is it purely learned? Like for your case, are you born with it, or is it just
I love that. Here is the thing. All of us are gods having a human experience. So one thing you need to understand that nobody stands out as special. Once you have that reality, you'll move through life looking at everyone, even the big folk that people run into. You'll remove everyone from the pedestal they are in. You'll run into the president, you'll greet them very confidently. You'll be very easy because you understand at the core of who we are all in one, the same people. Now the difference, what happens is that in the reality we live in, a lot of us are forgotten because that is the essence of being human. It's for you to forget, and your entire journey in life is a journey of remembrance. The more you remember who you are, the lighter you are, the more energy you become, the easier you got back to the divine source. Now, it's not something I'd say you have to automatically be born with for you to get easier for you. But I believe it's how intentional you are about it. Yeah. Personally, it's not something that I can say for a lifetime I've had, but I've had a very good inclination towards nature since I was a child. I've never understood why I used to stay out and have conversations with the moon from since I was a child, that is. But the truth is your spirituality is built on how much of the inner work you can do. Naturally, if you do the inner work, you will easily transcend into your higher self. Because the inner work is basically coming back into remembrance of who you are at the core. That is your energy, your God, you're having a human experience. But how do you remember? This is so hard for the typical human being. How do you remember this? It's by doing small things that get you back to that memory. It's achieving the small steps. Once you do one thing and it works, you're like, this is actually possible. It reinforces your belief. You do the next thing, and over time, you'll now get to a point where you can do big things without breaking a sweat. You can literally change your entire life without moving anything much, but because you've mastered it over time. So I would not say it's more of a genetic thing, but one thing I'd say, if you do the work, like right now we are doing the work, that is why you guys are in this class, you make it easier for the generations that come after you. So for example, my child will probably do half the work I've done because genetically I've empowered them. So naturally, they'll be more in sync with the universe. This means the inner work that I did transcends generations. So the work you're doing today is not just for you. For you to go back into remembrance, I need to understand that you're rewiring your entire genetic being. And this is why when you follow Joe Dispenza, he does a lot of these classes too. Yeah, and Joe is a qualified doctor. Yeah, but Joe now approaches whatever I'm teaching from the scientific lens. Joe will tell you that the habit, for example, of us sitting here and practicing gratitude, whenever you sit down and practice gratitude for just 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, gratitude, you'll probably beat anybody else who's doing everything right health-wise, whether they're eating the right food, whether they're working out. Just the habit of prioritizing gratitude every single day rewires your genetic system. Your immunity system goes up. Your brain moves into gamma. Gamma is the unlimited essence of your mind. So when your brain moves into gamma, you can literally attract and create the realities you want. But this is formed from gratitude. So these are things that doctors are now doing. They're watching groups of people who are going into retreats like this. And they're practicing, for example, if I tell you guys 15 minutes straight, just practice constant gratitude, but your heart is so full and is so filled. And they're watching your brain in that moment. And what thing they're realizing is your brain goes into gamma state in that moment. And literally your cells, the immunity system, shoots up. So the habit of practicing gratitude for just 15 minutes a day is the best medicine you can ever have through life. Your immunity is boosted. Your brain goes into this essence where it's not limited. So when you look at these practices that we do, it's basically just getting you back to a reminder of who you are. When you're practicing gratitude, you know at the core that everything is happening for you. That is just you coming back into the identity that you are God. So the work that you do today, it's playing a role for tomorrow. So don't ignore it. There would be strengths that I can pass down, but it's also how intentional you are about it. So someone can be ahead, someone can be catching up, but spirituality basically comes down to your ability to be intentional about your life. Know that you have the ability to create the life you desire. I don't know if that answers you. Does? Okay. Yes.
Okay, I have seen so many people say something happens in their life and they are like, it's the will of God. Can you explain that in terms of spirituality? I think you can understand.
Yes.
Is it something that is okay, or it's just something that you imagine it's the will of God?
Okay. So she's asking, when things happen and we say it's the will of God, how can you explain that spirituality in a spiritual lens? And whether it's a good thing or not. Now, you know, one thing about the universe is the balance, the yin and the yang. Like you said, there's no right path, there's no wrong path. It's the path you choose to experience. Your life will unfold in that lens. Now, when you look at spirituality and things happening and it's not something that you like and you wonder if it's the will of God, sometimes it could be both. I don't want to act like I have all the answers, yeah? But often, the reality that you experience has to do with you more than anything else. So when people say it's the will of God, they don't realize that the God they're referring to. Yeah? So when people say also it's the will of God to be able to live with that particular circumstance, it's also a way of self-soothing. Part of it could be that they created that reality, or they were not in control of their vibration of frequency. So they are tapped into that particular vibration of frequency. You understand? Anything can pull you if you align with it. So it could be your creation or it could be someone else's creation. If right now you are trying to create something that can bring me in it, yeah, and I happen to actually come in your magnetic field, and this is why you meet people and this is another thing. Whenever you're meeting people, there's no such thing as coincidence. Never meet people and think it's a coincidence. Every single person you met, just trace it back to how things evolved. Every single person you meet, every single coincidence in your life, it's not a coincidence. It's universal planning. Everything is very intentional around the universe. But it comes down to what level you're vibrating and at par with. That is why you'll realize once you start elevating your frequency and vibration, you start attracting better opportunities in your life. But it's both sides of the coin. It could be that you created it, or it could be that it was created for your own good. Yeah? And this is something we don't like to admit, for example. But there's this one time I was seated by the river. We had gone for a road trip. And I remember I felt a sudden urge to just ask why. And I don't know why I was asking why. But I got this glimpse of exactly why I lost my father at about 10 years of age. So I've lived my life feeling like I missed out because I loved my dad so much. We were so close. Yeah. So when he passed, it's something that I've always held against the universe. I've always wondered, why did you do that? Yeah, why did you take my best friend away? And when I crossed my solar return, when I turned 27, I remember seated by the river and suddenly I had the strong urge of why. And a whole series of different life paths just flashed before me, different life paths. And in that moment, I realized why it had to happen that way. Because if my father was alive in my life to date, I'd not be seated here with you guys doing this. So almost like my life purpose was tied down to him not being present, because his protectiveness would never have allowed me on this path. Yeah, a lot of things happened for me to end up in this path. So eventually you get to find answers when you're not seeking them. But the answers will always make you understand why things happen the way they do. And in the moment, they might not look okay, you might not like them, but eventually they make sense. Yeah? And the truth is, someday when they make sense, yeah, you'll see now the upside of it. So for example, since the incidents with my grandma, now I managed to tap into a conversation now with my dad. Yeah? And it made me realize that man has never left. You know, my life has been sort of, I can't explain certain things, but it's because I had someone else fighting for me that was not limited with the physical reality. So in the human lens, whenever we lose somebody, you look at it as a loss. In the spiritual lens, this person now has the ability to help you beyond the physical limitations of our mind. Yeah. So it eventually came to realize my life has actually unfolded in certain ways because he's been able to help me better in his absence, because he's not limited with the physical, yeah, being that he is where he is. So eventually things make sense. They might not make sense now, but they do make sense eventually. So in brief, the universal field that we all come from, we experience life limited because of the physical reality we are in. But there's a universal field where everything exists as one, where there's the divine oneness. And this is what the Bible talks about when they say God is omnipresent. God is omnipresent. God is everywhere. God is in you, God is in me, God is in these trees, God is in the earth, God is in the sun, that we can't explain how our food is made. God is everywhere. So your ability to go back to God will always dictate how well you elevate in life. And that does not mean the traditional form that we know it, of just purely through religion. It's coming back to the essence of being one with God. There's no separation with you and God. So you have to ask yourself, what experience is God having? Yeah? And anytime you're facing a challenge, this is not a challenge to God. This is just a circumstantial challenge in the moment. So whenever you move through life with the knowing of who you are, you're tapping back into the universal field and you're creating a better reality for yourself, because you've gone back into your God essence. You're one with God. That is basically the essence of abundance. And if you're one with God, you can never lack. If you're one with God, you cannot live in the limited aspects of humanity. If you're one with God, you need to be able to cross, every time you get a chance, cross over to God. Go back into the divine oneness. Come back within. Know your ability and your strength. I don't know if that answers you. Okay. Any question? Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, so
Hi.
hi. First of all, there's something important that you have said about nothing happens by coincidence. Because around last month, I guess. So I was watching some YouTube videos and I came across this lady who I loved her videos so much. And I just happened to find her also on TikTok. So I approached her on inbox and asked her, I was interested on the videos, the camera she uses and all that.
Yes.
Nothing else. And right now I can see her somewhere in Africana.
Oh, really?
I didn't know if she follows you.
Yeah.
I didn't know if and we coincidentally
Met here.
Together.
Yes.
So I feel like it's somehow connected to that.
Synchronicities.
Yeah, the coincidence you're talking about. Anyway, so my question was, do you believe in, there's this like analogy that people say, when you can't have it all, like as a human being. So like, let's say for example, you get money, you have to lose peace. When you have this, you have to lack in some aspect of your life. So how do you think about that?
That is like, I love that. It's a very common curation of the human mind, yeah, and we've all adapted it. You know, the beauty about the experience we get to live as consciousness in the human body is that the reality you create, you have the ability to create any reality, even the belief system. Now, the reason a lot of people believe that is because the minute you perceive life like that, life unfolds like that. So you're the kind of person, whenever you have money, you think, I can't have peace. And true, your pesa itakusumbua, you know, it will move you until you lack that peace. But you don't realize that it's backed by your perception. Another perception people have is that whenever you're having a good time, a disaster is coming. Yeah? And you don't realize that you're actually curating that disaster through the thought process. So it's basically just the perception of the human being. And imagine, God loves you so much that in this physical reality, you're given the freedom of choice. And when the Bible talks about the will, that freedom of choice basically comes down to even the perception you choose. So you're even given the freedom of choice to think, it will take time before I can achieve this. Now you have the freedom. It will take time, yes, but you have the freedom to think like that. You have the freedom to think, it's impossible for me to create this, and it will be impossible for you to create. When in real sense, you have the ability to create. The only difference is how do you wire your perception to work for you. So it's not something that is mandated that you have to have one thing to lack the other. No, you can have it all. You just need to know your essence as God. And here's the thing. If you can go back to your divine essence and understand that you're God having a human experience, even the experiences you don't have don't shake you to the core. They don't. As a matter of fact, you live through life with a very or sort of free attitude, because it doesn't matter what you encounter. There is always a higher self version of you that is doing things to favor, that is working for you. So have a habit of invoking your higher self. Anytime you run, this is actually a secret I'm sharing. Anytime you run into anything you don't like, have a habit of invoking your higher self. What you're going to do is you're going to slow down in that moment. You're going to be in charge of your magnetic field by being present. You have to come in the present moment. Now invoke your higher self. Just tell her or him, I don't like this. Yeah, I don't like this. Please surprise me with something nice. So whether it's surprise me with something nice before the day ends, surprise me with some good news, have a habit of playing with the universe. Because it's a game. A lot of you take it too seriously. Yeah? And you don't realize you're creating your reality through that seriousness. It is a game. The next time you go shopping, I do this all the damn time. Yesterday, I was not sure if this set of clothing will be out of the laundry in time. So I decided to scroll through online. I'm trying to shop new suits. So by the shopping new suits in this town is a headache. Women's suits, it's crazy. Because even the ones that they sell that go for like 15, 20 G's, they call them tacky. And they're so pathetic, I'm sorry to say. Yeah. So yesterday, I'm scrolling through and I'm trying to find a suit. Yeah. And I decide to tell the universe, see, you do for me some shopping today. I mean, I do it all the damn time, baby. I don't like spending my savings on certain things. So I have this habit that whenever you're going to shop anything, for example, whether it's a supermarket or you've gone into a mall, tell the universe, see, you spoil me today. Yeah, I feel like being spoiled today. It's a life hack. Doesn't matter what you spend your money on. You can spend that, whatever, but you have to have the confidence and the knowing. That is the secret. Don't go do this if you don't believe you. You have to know. So have the confidence and the knowing that the universe is always listening and is always providing for you. So tell the universe, tell them, I want to shop something I've not had this week or I've not had lately. And whether you put a seed in it, whether it's starting to put a deposit in that thing, that money will find you. You might not know how it finds you, but it will find you. So have the habit of challenging the universe even as you go through your day. Challenge the universe for something nice. Today I feel like a surprise. Give me something nice. Or this month, how about this month we travel somewhere? I don't want to know how it will go. And sometimes you don't even put timelines to it because time is only relevant in our dimension. Just say, I feel like traveling somewhere. Where? And if you're in touch with your intuition, will you guys allow me to teach intuition before we break? Yeah. Yes? If you're in touch with your intuition will start speaking to your higher self. Because you've learned to calm the noises in your voice, in your mind. Once you learn to calm the noises in your mind, you'll start to listen to your intuition more clearly. Now your intuition is your best friend. Your intuition is God. And the reason why in our society, we've put intellect over intuition, because a lot of us live in the ignorance that your intellect is your intellect is limited. Your intellect is your physical mind and knowing and understanding. Your intuition is the universal knowing. So your intuition knows way beyond what your eyes can see. That is why sometimes you feel it in your body when things are not right. Your intuition knows way beyond things in our timeline. So the more you master your intuition, by the way, the more you master life. Because your intuition has all the answers you're looking for. All the questions, for example, you're asking me in this scenario, your intuition knows the answer. Every single thing you're looking for in life, your intuition knows the answer. Your intuition is your God guidance that over the years we've really undermined, because in the education system we've taken, we put intellect on a pedestal. But intellect is a child of intuition. Intellect is one aspect of intuition. So how do you master your intuition? your intuition, first of all, is not a big, how do I say, it's not big on the physical aspects. The physical aspect is, for example, how our senses work. So your intuition is not part of this world. For you to understand your intuition, you need to understand that first. Your intuition is not part of this world. Your intuition is part of the universal field. So for you to get in touch with your intuition, you have to get out of this physical world. And you do it by having the habit of quieting your mind and leaning more on your body. If you can have a habit of quieting your mind, because a lot of us have so much noise going on here, and most of us own that noise. Please don't own the noise that is going on here. The noise that is telling you, I'm hungry right now. The voice that is telling you, there's something you need to pay by the end of this day, by the end of this week. Have a habit of blocking those things. Have a habit of letting this be your most precious home ever. Your mind creates the life you're living. So tend to protect it. The thoughts will be there because thoughts have to pass through us. The only way for us to have this experience and for us to interconnect is the collective consciousness. So it means we'll always have thoughts coming in our mind. You master your intuition by learning how to quiet your thoughts. You quiet your thoughts, you move into your body, into your well-being. Number one. Number two, you have to regulate your nervous system. You'll never hear your intuition if you're someone who is stressed constantly. You will never hear your intuition if you're someone who is always constantly overthinking. Your nervous system, you have to regulate your nervous system. So do more of things that make you feel at ease, whether it's your body, whether it's your mind, whether it's your soul. Do more things that make you relax, make you feel happy. If you can calm your nervous system, if you can regulate your nervous system, it will be easy for you to listen to your intuition. The other aspect of listening to your intuition is that you need to recognize its personality. Your intuition doesn't shout. Your intuition will never shout. It will never be loud. Your intuition will never force you to do anything. Your intuition will always give you an answer in the most subtle, assured way. So the personality, you need to understand the personality of your intuition for you to master it. Your intuition is, I wouldn't say the first voice that comes to your mind, but it's always the most calm. It's not trying to force the idea down your... It's always just... It's telling you this is the reality, but you get to choose. The intuition knows you're having a human experience, so it's not so big on changing anything for you. It's just big on guiding you. So you master your intuition by knowing its personality. It won't shout. It will often guide you in the most, almost like polite way possible, because its work is just tell you the truth. Now you master your intuition with how well you've mastered to empty your thoughts. If you can empty your thoughts, go into silence, and understand the personality of your intuition, it's so easy for you to hear your intuition more loud. Now, one thing you have to admit, and this is something humanity falls short of, is that everything in the physical reality needs practice. So all these lessons that you're doing today, if you don't practice them over time, they'll still become these stories that you hear of. So start with the small things that you can put into practice. Your intuition is the same way. If you master listening to your intuition, over time, it will become the loudest noise for you. Not the loudest, but the most prominent voice for you. And it's because you've learned to listen to it. Now she's more bold. Now she can show up and say, yeah, what's up? You're thinking of doing this and this and that. But your intuition gets better and louder with how well you get to listen to it. Like every single relationship, you have to work on it. It's like a muscle, you have to stretch it. So the next time you want to do something, challenge your body and mind. Challenge your body, go into silence and think, what does my intuition lean towards? Your intuition will always lead towards what feels right for you, what feels good for you. That's another personality of your intuition. So the more you lean into your intuition, the more you curate the life you want. So going forth, I want to challenge this class, because a lot of humans live through life with putting intellect on a pedestal. I want to challenge you to put intuition on a pedestal. The next time someone tells you, I think this is what you should do, or the next time you think, I think this is the best path to do, I want you to quiet your mind and ask your intuition, what do you think we should do? Because your mind might have the facts that are physically present for you, but your intuition has the facts that are universally working for you. So your mind might even limit you sometimes. We don't have the resources, we can't do that, we can't jump, we can't do this. Your intuition will tell you, no, we have everything set in place. Just make the first step and we'll show the path. So go and master your intuition as a skill set. You know, the things we underestimate in life today happen to be one of the most critical skill sets you can ever live with in life. Because if you can master the small things, like you master skill set around intuition, you master the inner work. The small things that we do reflect on the outer work. So when you might think, what is abundance? How do I make my life more abundant? You become abundant by recognizing the abundance within you. You have the abundance of resources because you are one with God. You are made from the same cosmic dust that makes the universe. You have to recognize the abundance within you in form of guidance and wisdom. Your intuition knows way more than you would ever fathom. I'm telling you this as someone who one time, you'll get to a point you've practiced your intuition to a point whereby someone can't, even someone you're not with in the same room, can't do things without you finding out. You have the womb, so you're more spiritually inclined to your intuition. And it's because you're a portal between the spiritual and the physical. This is how you people bring life. This is how you can hold life within you until 9 months. As a woman, if you're not in touch with your intuition, you're missing out on probably the core of who you are as a person. Because as a woman, your intuition is bigger than your intellect. And your intuition is built on the trust you have within yourself. So how well and how much at peace are you with yourself? How much are you listening to yourself? How well are you following your journey? You know, how big are you on you than anyone else? And I say this, and I'm more passionate about this when it comes to women, because if women learn to listen to their intuition, we live in a world where the woman knows that she has the power to control even her monthly cycle. We have the luteal phase, we have all those phases. The woman would know that she gets to dictate everything that happens to her in her life. The reason why we live in a world that is pushing down things like contraceptives to women, despite them not having an option that is safe for the girl child, is because the girl child has walked away from her intuition. She's forgotten that she gets to create her reality. She's forgotten she gets to choose whether she wants a child, whether she's ready for it or not. The minute you're in touch with your intuition, this is a deeper lesson that I don't think I can do it in a masterclass. These are lessons either I do one-on-one or further coaching. But intuition, you get to a level of your intuition whereby you are in touch with your body cells. That is how my friend managed to change, to become cancer-free. It had to be like that personalized, one-on-one, let's do this. That is how in less than 6 months, they're cancer-free, someone who was on stage 4 cancer. And it's because your intuition will guide you in understanding that you are the observer of your life. And when you're the observer of their life, it means the vessel of you that is representing you is purely a vessel. If you can master how to detach from it, if you can master how to look at yourself from an outside lens and understand, I'm universal consciousness, I'm purely having a human experience. Your body is made of cells at the miniature point. You have your heart, you have your uterus, you have your legs, you have your hands. But you need to understand that every body part, at the essence, at the small block of it is cells. And one thing you also need to acknowledge is that cells are actually alive. So your whole body is made of life forms that are alive, that are coordinating together to give you the experience you have as a full body having you. Now, this is something that you get to understand better if you're a woman who is in touch with their womb. Because you'll realize your womb will give you immense knowledge of even your ancestral gifts. If you're in touch with your womb will teach you lessons, history that you're not even aware of. Your womb will teach you, if your family lineage was psychic, if they're healers, and you go back in touch with your womb will tell you all that information. And it's because your body cells are equally alive. And they're equally being kept alive with the consciousness that is keeping you alive. It's because they're alive that you are alive. So intuition enables you to be in charge of even your bodily cells. You can get them to do anything the way you want it to do. If there's a disease there, you can decide to tell your body cells to get rid of that disease. It starts here, and once it has the feeling here, there's nothing you can't create. So I do these conversations based on my experience. I've seen people heal from diseases that were impossible. I've seen people transform their life upwards and downwards, because I've seen someone come from that lens of having everything and realizing they're still empty. And they come to you and tell you, what am I not doing right? Because I have vacation homes, I have my dream home. There's no car that I've not driven that I wanted. I have my companies running. Things are set for my generation. Why do I still feel empty? And this is why when you're starting this class, I told you, it's zero work if you aim for abundance without doing the inner work. It's zero work. You will arrive there with everything. You will still feel empty. And this is why you'll now start feeling it with things. And you realize things can't feel it. So the only way to enhance your life to a point of fulfillment and contentment is you acknowledging that you are one with the creator energy, you're one with the divine. And you often going back to your home. Home is not where you go back to lay your hands, please. Lay your head at the end of the day today. Home is going back to the divine. And you can only doing this by knowing there is no separation. And you have this habit, anytime you come back home, the universe smiles. Sometimes there are things that I clock in my mind, and the universe, and I can hear my guides laugh. We can't believe she clocked it. It's almost like it's incomprehensible to them, because in the human world, we're so limited that once you clock something in another dimension, the guides call themselves. Yeah, someone clocked this from the human dimension. How? It's because you're so in touch with who you are that you know you're not limited with the human vessel. If you can move with that knowingness, there's nothing you can't achieve. I think I can go in, there's no limit to this education. I try to stick to the points for the masterclass, to just guide. I don't know if there's any question before I allow you guys to break. Yes?
2 questions.
Yeah.
One comes from the intuition. Personally, I love that.
Yeah.
The question is, it is said out here that if you lie out here with your mouth, the highest chance is that the intuition will also lie to you. Is that true? Another question, now on the other side, how do you introduce what we have just learned right now to someone else who is very dear to you? And I'll put a perspective to this. I found it, and even when you look around, you can see most people here are below 27 years old. The perspective is, for example, for myself, for the people who are my age, that is millennials and going back, unless something happens,
Yes.
somehow I feel for the younger generation, it's almost like it is automatic. But for those people who are millennials and going back, something has to trigger. And case in point myself, I'm very explorative, I research a lot, but pain in my life had to trigger this. And had to go even do the shadow work. I've done my birth chart. I had to go through a lot so that I can reach where I am right now. And I'm happy now I've done all the shadow work at least. Right now I'm thinking now the abundance and everything.
Yes.
So at least I'm happy about that.
Mombasa. Okay.
So now,
how do you introduce to someone who is my age that there's something like spirituality? Because I don't know whether also my perspective is right, that I feel for the younger people it's very easy, but for the people from 28 now, those are millennials, utafanya kazi. Unless, by the way,
True.
most of the times it is their own personal experience, and now they start now looking for information after something probably tragic, a loss has happened.
I love that. It's so true. I've personally experienced the second part. Let me answer your second question first. How do you break this down to older generations? It's you know why it's easier? I'll start with why it's easier for the younger generations. I believe we are the first generation that is getting it a bit easy in life. Not like easy, but we are the first generation that is not surviving as much as the older generation. So you find that is why today Gen Z can easily quit a job. You know, they show up, I work with them, most of my employees are Gen Zs. First of all, they talk back at me. Yeah. I struggled with it in the beginning because my bosses, when I was working, my bosses, you could not ever talk back to your bosses. So in the beginning, I was used to struggle with how they talk back at me. Then I made peace because it's their nature. They're very opinionated, first of all, the younger people today. And if you look at their personality, it's more of, they are not surviving. That is why they can even quit a job. It's whenever you're not surviving through life, you have the ability to explore the reality of life. The older generations struggle with this because a lot of them struggled in their life. And in that moment of struggle, you don't have the capacity for anything else. Because first of all, your nervous system has to be regulated for you to understand this information. Otherwise, it's not even going to be a priority for you. Your nervous system is often regulated through when you're someone who is peaceful, when you're someone who is calm at the core. So with older generations, it almost needs like you said, either they have an awakening around it, or for you to approach it, it has to be with a very systematic approach. Either it could be through evidence. So for example, my own mother, I just told you an example. She couldn't believe me until that other lady told her. Yeah? Yet the information I knew, I didn't know it before. Yeah? So the older generation, it's almost like you have to prove for them these things. But one thing I'd say is you take it a step at a time, because again, you can't overwhelm them with this information. Even the universe does not give you this information at a go. That is for sure. Like I'm very in touch with the elements of nature. That is, I'm very in touch with water, air, earth, wind, all that. But when I look at how the universe taught me to master the elements of earth or water and all that, the universe took me step by step. You can't overwhelm people with this information. Like my first mastery was water. The universe took me through mastering water. No one taught me how to swim. Nowadays I even snorkel in the deep ocean. But it came from my mastery of water. And my mastery of water was my consciousness, my spiritual relationship with the consciousness in water. It means I can tap into the consciousness of a water body. Human beings need to understand that you are not the only form of consciousness expressing itself. Consciousness has been expressing itself way before you existed, through the waters, through the earth. That is how earth is formed. That is why they say Mother Earth is alive, because Mother Earth has consciousness. The waters have consciousness. That is why you need water to survive for your body. You easily get dehydrated and you die. You can go along without food, but without water you die. You know, fire. We need fire fire is what has enabled us to be able to cook over the years. Fire is also a form of the sun and all that. So this is information that I feel that the universe taught me step by step, for example, to master every step. It started by water, then we went to earth. Earth came through grounding, and then you went to fire, and then you go to wind. I'm even still learning to master air. But spirituality, the lessons around it is something you can't master at a go. The things I'm talking about, some of them might even sound crazy to some of you seated here. But it's because you probably know one part, you've not clocked the other part. But if you're patient enough, the universe will bring you to that understanding slow by slow. And the universe will bring you to that understanding based on your interest around it and your intention around it. So don't offer to break down this information to someone who is not interested. First of all, they'll not only kill the idea beforehand, but they'll discourage your own growth. So focus on someone who has an idea around it, or if someone you can break it down step by step until they understand. Yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as making them understand that their reality is based on their thoughts and their feelings. What have they been thinking lately? And has that been reflecting their reality? So that would answer your question. I think I try not to force people into spirituality. When the time is right, people wake up. When the time is right, they wake up. And sometimes you'll wake up through a lot of pain. Yeah? Sometimes you'll wake up through just awareness. Or sometimes you'll just wake up because you are ready. So don't try to force them into it. Yeah. The first question you asked is if you tell yourself you're a failure, if your subconscious...
It's about intuition. It's a saying that goes around that if you lie with the physical body, the intuition, which is part of the consciousness, that's
if it knows you're lying.
No, it doesn't know that. It starts also lying to you. Like, for example, the way you say you quiet your mind and you ask it, it will also lie to you because naturally you're lying.
You're lying.
Is it true?
All right. So one thing is for sure, the more you get in touch with your intuition, the lies will fall apart because the lies are not part of your authentic self. And when I say the lies is because sometimes you might look at things as, sometimes there are things that are obvious lies, and there are some realities that you're just not there yet, but at the core you know it's the truth. Yeah. So a lie can be two-sided. That is why I started by saying the universe is a balance, the yin and the yang. There's no right or wrong. So a lie that is not for your good or the greater good is causing harm to you. So your subconscious mind I don't know why you're saying it will start lying to you, but I think it's a form of you won't be able to listen to your intuition in that magnetic field. So whatever you're conceiving as a lie is not your intuition. You've suppressed your intuition. Your intuition can never lie. It's the most straightforward, it's the most supportive avenue of guidance you'll ever have. It could never lie to you. So what happens whenever you feel like it's your intuition lying, it's actually your intuition has been suppressed. The version you're getting is not your intuition. It's probably the noise going on in your mind. How do you maintain the inner work? All right. You have your ideal self in check. You've done the inner work. How do you maintain it? Very simple. It's not your job to know how you're going to get to your ideal self. The only role you have to play now in the process is to maintain an elevated magnetic field by having an elevated emotion most of the time, if you can, that is. You need to understand that once you're in the journey of getting to your ideal self, it means it's already happening. You cannot see the pieces being put together. But every single thing that you run into, whether you're scrolling on social, whether you're reading a magazine, whether you're watching Netflix, whether you're taking an action, whether you run into somebody, it's all part of the pieces coming together. So you easily make the pieces come together more fast by having an elevated state of consciousness, having an elevated state of emotion, knowing that it's all coming together to work for you. So this is being in control of your feelings, especially ensuring you lean towards feeling as good as you want. Because what happens is it's already happening. So the more you're feeling good, the more your energetic field is now picking those things, bringing them into reality. So it's basically, how do you maintain it? Is try and lean more towards having a good time. Yeah? Try and not ignore, but try to lean more towards things happening for you than against you. So that is how you maintain it to get to a point of what you want. Because you're already a magnetic field. And this is scientifically is now being proven. Every time you have an elevated emotion, your magnetic field, this is now being proven, expands. It means if I have a 9-meter magnetic field, anytime I'm an elevated emotion, my field can cover this space. It means if I was walking, for example, in a neighborhood with someone who is likely to change my life, they can easily attracted to me. Or I'm easily being guided into areas, into spaces, whereby my life can go the way I want it to be. But intentionally, you have to be intentional about maintaining that elevated emotion within yourself. So don't allow your circumstances in the 3D change whatever is happening in here. You might be running into things you don't like. You need to go back into understanding the God element. You are the creator. So the things you're running into should shape themselves to you. What we do as human beings, we shape ourselves to our circumstances. So when you're in the process, when you're in that journey, aim to just remain at your elevated state of consciousness. Because by then, when you're doing that, your magnetic field is changing things that you run into to work for you rather than work against you. So don't give your power to anything else that is not in line with what you want. Your only job is to maintain that elevated state of consciousness. Anytime you get a chance, move into your alternate reality that you prefer as often as you can. Even if it's for a second, if you can hold that feeling of you having that which you want, hold it. You can visualize it, hold it for as long as you can, even if it's just for a minute, then come back to your normal consciousness. Yeah? So it's basically you maintaining your frequency. I'd say that. I don't know if that helps. There's someone with a question here.
Yes. If you have different, so let's say, I'll just give my scenario. So let's say I have different friends, and of course, as I do this work, I'd say my vibration or my awareness and blah 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 has risen.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, you cannot, and I agree, you can't force. I think it's a journey that you just have to do on your own and get there. And so, does hanging out with other people with lower vibration ever pull you back? Or do you reach a point where now you can't even be able to continue hanging around with people with lower vibration compared to where you are?
Okay. I don't think I have a definite answer for that, because the truth is, you'll get to a point, like, I think personally I've mastered myself to a point whereby I can be in any room and I will influence that room based on my vibration. That room won't influence me. So you see, it's easier for me to be around anyone because I can easily lift them to my level. Yeah? But you have to know yourself and where you are at. Because if you're not strong yet, you might be easily influenced by the people around you. And that is why they always say the company you keep dictates who you are. Because it's easy for you to lean more towards now their level of vibration. Yeah, so it's a matter of knowing yourself. If you understand yourself better, you can actually stay. How do I say it? It's like building. I do it sometimes when I'm in the morning and rushing to work. Like yesterday, I had a meeting somewhere in Westlands. I was so late in the morning. So we are coming down, and I can see cops are trying to almost stop everyone, but I don't have the time to stop. So what do I do? I clock my car. So I came and I was just, the cop is just go. Because what I've done is, how do you clock yourself? You clock yourself by envisioning a white light bulb around you. So once you can envision the light energy around you, you can choose if you want to be invincible or not. I've walked into rooms where I don't want someone to recognize me, oh God. Yeah? And they won't, because I've mastered the art of being invincible. And at the same time, you can master the art of magnetism. I can walk into a room and I can decide everyone's eyes will find me where I am. And you do this by being intentional. So when you talk about being intentional about your life, it's not just in how your life is unfolding in serious aspects. It's even in the silly things. You can be in a room and you decide, I don't want to be seen in this room, and you clock yourself. Or you can be in a room and you say you want the attention to come to you. Yeah? So through the art of magnetism, how do you enhance your art of magnetism? Is by basically just putting yourself on a pedestal, not anyone else. You will show up in your authentic self. So I'm not worried about how you guys are perceiving me from that end when you're seated there. I'm just sharing with you the knowledge I have, the wisdom I have, the experience I have, to the best of my level in the timeline that we have. Yeah. So if you find it reasonable, we can go more into details over time. Yeah, but I'm just showing up in this space to create the value I can and to change a life. So sometimes your magnetism is just based on your presence in that moment. And the same thing to you being invincible. So the thing about the universe is that there are always two sides to every aspect. So you choose whether you want to elevate or come down to their level. Or you choose whether you don't want to be in that space and now you prefer more solitude. But the truth is, in your awakening journey and in your spiritual journey, you will have to go into solitude at some point. You might wonder why people disappeared to, but you just don't have the energy anymore to have certain crowds around you. Because they're draining, they're taking away from you. Yeah? And you are very cautious about your energetic field. So it can go both ways. There's no definite answer to it. Those question, yes.
Sorry, I just need to ask this. I'm also on that journey of spirituality and all
Yeah.
that. But now there's something that I am feeling it's contradicting. I don't know how it's working.
Yes.
Because there is this thing of the universe. There is God. And TikTok has so many things. So there's this thing that people I have seen people saying, like Joe, they're saying he's a cult, you know. So I don't understand where the difference comes in between now when you are praying. Let's say you want something, you talk to the universe. Where does God come in?
I love that.
You know? So I really don't get that.
I get that confusion a lot, yeah. And as someone, I was raised in church. Yeah, I was raised. My parents are very strict church people. I was raised in church my entire life, and I am very close with God in that essence. Yeah, and then I think once my solar return happened, I think I leaned more towards spirituality. But the truth is, once you go down the rabbit hole, you realize there's no difference. So the people that try to create the separation, it's mostly religion. When you come to spirituality, everyone comes in that circle. There is no separation. And when you say, now how do you pray to God? Once you master spirituality, I promise you, you'll start seeing prayer in a very different lens. Whenever I go to pray today, I have a conversation with God. It's not like before, whereby I was this beggar who was begging for things to happen to me. No, nowadays when I pray, I'm having a conversation with God. And now it means I no longer have to wait until I kneel down to pray. It means I could be in the traffic and I'm praying. And it's basically me having a conversation with God. And now our conversations that have changed since I evolved my spirituality. It's not a beggar, a father thing kinda. It's more of, hi, I was thinking I want to do Maldives in November. Yeah? What choice do you think is better? So I no longer approach it with, do you think we can go to Maldives? Yeah? It's totally different. I approach it with, I'm doing this. Yeah? And now the thing is, whenever you're showing up as God, God loves it so much. Because you're literally showing up, you're, like we said earlier on, we are consciousness having a human experience. So you're God at the core having a human experience. Every time you go back to God, you're going back to the divine essence of it. But the thing is, as a spiritual person, I would never underestimate a religious person because I know they're talking to God just in a different perspective. So whenever you see someone online bashing people who are praying, they've not mastered their spirituality in full. Your spirituality in full acknowledges that people pray in different ways. But you're also aware that on how you pray in more confidence and how you bring things into your reality more faster. So you don't pray like the typical person who's not aware of their power. You pray knowing there's no separation between you and God. You command things to happen. I command this into my reality. That is what I was telling you. Play with the universe. You can even say it's God, but play with God during the course of your day. Tell God, let's do something today. Let's do something this month. You know, how about you take me shopping today? Yeah, guys, I'm telling you, do those small things that look crazy. When you do them and they start showing the results, now start doing the big things. Yeah, but it's possible. I don't know if that helps you understand. For me, God is omnipresent. When I see you, I see God. Yeah, just a version of God that is limited to you. Yeah, and when I look at the trees, I see God in a different lens. When I look at the sun, which is responsible for our food, I see God represented in the sun. And that is why our ancestors used to pray looking at the sun and all that. They understood the connection. They understood there's no separation. Yeah.
So does it mean that there's just one higher human, not human?
Yes.
But we all have different names for it. Let's say, for example, maybe the Hindu, the Indians, they pray to different things.
Yes.
So does it mean they're just praying to that higher?
There's no separation. The separation comes from the human ego. Yeah. Otherwise, your God in Christianity is not any better than the God of the Muslim or the God of the Indians. It's a human ego that has created that separation. But also that reflects and shows you that we've known the truth all along. We've just allowed separation in the definition of it. Yeah? Yeah, but it's one thing.
Because there's this thing of Christianity and people say that this God was brought by the colonial people. But then, before that, the African people are still praying. So I get the point.
You get the
Just have one hand.
No, it's just one. That is what I was saying. At the core, it's one universal field. It's one divine, and the divine is showing himself in different physical manifestation. And I'm thinking that is so smart of God, because imagine if I was God, and in the beginning, the universe says, the Bible says, in the beginning there was word, right? And the word was God. It means in the beginning there was only God. There was nothing else. So imagine what experience God would have if he was only experiencing essence from his own existence. So God decided, I'm gonna have different experiences. So we are all representations of God, just in different lengths and different dimensions and all that. But at the core, we are all part of the same universal field. We're all part of the divine. There is no separation. And once you understand this, you live through life and treat people with a lot of decency, because everyone you meet is God. They're just either they've lost their connection with God or they're ignorant of the fact. That is what is dictating their behavior. But you who is aware, you'd rather step up and act like it. So God is everywhere. The next time you're trying to look for God, just look around, you'll see God.